Will there soon be mass arrests of deep state actors? Friends, welcome to today's edition of the Patriot Network. This is David Schnitker, your co-host for today's program. Thanks for joining us. The purpose of the Patriot Network is to inform, encourage, and motivate you to stand strong with the army of at least 80 million citizens who voted for Donald Trump in 2020. Friends, do we want to continue our constitutional heritage of free and fair elections? Or do we want to go the way of Venezuela and be stuck with corrupt dictators like Hugo Chavez and Communist Chinese agent Joe Biden? I'm joined today by my brother Richard, reporting from an underground bunker deep in the hills of Northern California. Richard, welcome back to the Patriot Network.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, David, from a sunny but cold day in the Sierra Mountains.
Well, it has been a while since we taped our last program. The last program we taped was right before the November 3rd election. And of course, things have gone really wild and crazy with the Democrats attempting to steal the election in so many different ways. And so we wanted to give an update to our listeners about what's going on regarding the Stop the Steal effort, but also we want to talk about some encouraging news in terms of the congressional races. Before we get into that, Richard, if you could share again with us, perhaps for new listeners, about the Facebook page that you have developed to support Team Trump.
Yes, it's called the Patriot Network. If you're going to search it on Facebook, it's the Patriot Network 1776. We're also on MeWe, and we're also on Parler under the Patriot Network.
Okay, great. So you have 3 platforms now to get your message out, and of course Facebook is increasingly censoring all things pro-American and pro-Trump, so it's good that you're on a couple of other platforms as well. Well, on today's program, we are going to talk about 2 very different issues. First, we are going to talk about how Republicans fared in congressional races. We're not hearing too much about that on the mainstream press, but we have some encouraging news to share with you about how our Republicans fared across the country in terms of House race pickups. We're going to talk particularly about California, some very encouraging news about the congressional races in California. We're also going to talk about what the Trump administration is doing, particularly their legal team, in terms of attempting to stop the steal by Democrats and their cohorts in the mainstream media and big tech. So we're going to get right into that. I think we have some really encouraging news for you, friends. This is not a time for despair. We have a courageous president who will never consent to the steal. He will never step down as long as the law and the votes are on his side. And as I said in my introduction, I believe that upwards of 80 million Americans voted for President Trump. There are some who have access to the true voting records, and it is possible that he carried 49 states in this latest election, the greatest landslide, I think, in U.S. history. Only New York State validly beat Trump, but, New York State is a dying socialist state. So this was, in actuality, a tremendous landslide for Donald Trump. And if you're one of the 80-plus million American citizens who voted for Donald Trump, do not despair. Truth is on our side, and Trump has a first-class legal team and also friends in the DOD who are pursuing the truth. So we want to encourage you today. We're going to begin with some encouraging news regarding Republican results in the U.S. Congress. And with all the focus on the faux president, the so-called president-elect who is ensconced in his bunker, with a little sign behind him, the office of president-elect, while this PSYOP is going on, we have real news of encouragement about new U.S. House representatives, patriotic team of people, greatest diversity, more Republican women won office for the U.S. Congress. And of course, this new team of Republicans will be commencing their duty soon. But just to give the overall picture, what we had in the November 3rd election, we had Republicans pick up 9 seats. Democrats lost 8 seats. That's a flip of 17 seats. And there are 7 of these races that are still undeclared. The Democrats are apparently still trying to find votes, pull votes out of trash bags, etc., and counting and recounting till they get what they want. So the declared races have given Republicans 9 more seats. The Democrats lost 8 seats. So we have, even without the undeclared races, of which there are 7, Republican House seats are now up to 206. The Democrat Party has gone down by 9. Now they only have 222 seats. 218 is required for a majority in the U.S. House of Representatives, which has 435 seats. And again, there are 7 more of these seats that are undeclared. So let's say the Republican Party picks up 5 of 7. That places the Republicans at 211 seats, and it takes the Democrats down to 217. So margins are becoming razor thin in the House. And again, one of the inconceivable aspects of this is there have been these great gains within the Republican Party in the House and Senate. We still have some undeclared or runoff elections in the Georgia Senate races. But we have these gains in the Republican pickups. But at the same time, they're saying that Joe Biden got 80 million votes. Somehow it doesn't make sense. Well, let's talk about the California congressional races. And Richard, I believe you have some encouraging news in that regard.
Yeah, California, I predicted 9 flips, Democrat to Republican. So far, we have 6 that have flipped. Darrell Issa, as you remember, was a powerhouse that didn't run in 2018 and then decided to put his hat back in the ring and ran again, and glorious victory. Vietnamese woman, Young Kim, won a great victory down in Orange County area. So far we have 6. We have 2 of them that they haven't called yet. I don't understand why they haven't called them, because the vote margins are 50 to 30 with votes counting. Well, these are in small counties that there's not, more than 150, 200,000 votes.
Are they counting with the votes with an abacus, or what are they using?
I don't know, but when you're 50 to 30, there's no way they can pick up. So my prediction was 9. I think we're going to get 8 here in California that have flipped.
That's great. 8 more Republicans, 8 less Democrats. That's
yes.
In the land of fruits and nuts. I think that's remarkable.
And here's another remarkable. Trump got 1.47 million more votes than he did in 2016.
Wow.
So yeah, almost 1.5 million more votes in California than he did in 2016. That
is amazing. Of course, we don't know what chicanery. Maybe the true results would have been much higher, but even that is a remarkable pickup of votes in so-called liberal California. Maybe California is not as liberal as we're being told, is it?
Right. But I was looking at a map. They were showing the congressional seats, and it's a red and blue map, and of course, all along the coastline was all blue, and the rest of the state was red. And but then when you showed the presidential race, almost the entire state was blue except the northern part above Sacramento, which doesn't make any sense at all. We flipped almost 9 seats from Los Angeles to Sacramento to northern California area. There's no way that the whole state would have voted blue for Trump.
Well, let me ask this, Richard. Do you have any friends that voted Republican for the congressional races and then voted for Biden that you know of?
No, but what happened in California, this was a mail-in vote. So this was all mail-in. So they sent out, I think it was 25 million ballots. All you had to do is sign the envelope and send it back. And of course, the ballot was separate from the envelope. So the minute they pulled it out, there was no way to verify that the person that signed the ballot was who they said they were. So, yeah, there's definitely some fraud. There's always been fraud in California and the Los Angeles area anyway. But
plus, don't you have a few illegal aliens that get to vote in California?
Well, yeah. Well, we have driver's license. They call it voter ID law in California, and illegals can get driver's license here. So the minute you register to vote, if you don't pick a party, they automatically register you as a Democrat. So yeah, so we had millions of illegals voting. That's all you need. And in California, you don't need a driver's license or any ID to vote.
Well, things are crooked. But even with all of that, it's a wonderful thing that you've got 6 pickups in California, possibly probably 2 more, unless they're able to find a lot of
right. Some more votes at the in the trunk of a Democratic operative's car.
Yes, that's probably what they've been looking for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, so it's funny. I live in the Placer County, one of the most red counties in the state of California, and the Sacramento Bee did an article saying that Placer County flipped blue. It's now a blue state. And I immediately looked at that and I thought, well, first of all, your article is quoting numbers that were just a few hours after the polls closed. And about a week later, they had to come back and redact the statement, the article, because Placer County held firm as the strongest county, red county in California. But the liberals were all cheering it for a whole week there. They were just, you couldn't shut them up. Placer County is now blue. That means the whole state's blue. Well, maybe you should have waited for the rest of the votes to come in and not reported it 2 hours after the election was over.
Well, speaking of the election, let's transition now to what the Trump legal team is doing to stop the steal. Let me just say a word about the legal team that Donald Trump has assembled. They are definitely Super Bowl champions. I mean, think about this team. They've got Rudy Giuliani, one of the strongest prosecutors in our country, Joe DeGeneva, his wife Gloria Tenzing, Jenna Ellis, Sidney Powell, Lynn Wood. Lynn Wood is defending Kyle Rittenhouse against the trumped-up charges against him. I mean, these are all-star lawyers, prosecutors, people with tremendous experience in Veritas, and they are all working together. I'm sure that there are others that I don't know that are working to combat the steal that is basically focused on about 6 of the swing states. I have an article here about what Sidney Powell is doing just in the state of Georgia, and this is just a taste of the kinds of fraud that has taken place in these 6 swing states, of course, that being Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, and Arizona. There was deep and pervasive voter fraud in those 6 states, and particularly in some liberal counties, Democrat-controlled counties, like Philadelphia, Detroit, Atlanta, etc. That's where they focused on massive voter fraud from a variety of sources in a variety of ways, both in terms of the voting machines and then illegal ballots. Let me just quote a little bit from an article that came out entitled, Sidney Powell's suit makes 30 allegations in bid to invalidate Georgia election results. This appeared in the Epoch Times, November 26th, which, by the way, is a great newspaper. I get the Epoch Times, and they also have a great website as well. Let me just detail a couple of the 30. These are 30 major allegations just in the state of Georgia. One of the allegations in the lawsuit is the software used by the Dominion machines were accessed by agents of malicious actors such as China and Iran in order to monitor and manipulate elections. Another allegation is that the software used by Dominion was designed by the Venezuelan government for the specific purpose to rig elections without the risk of getting caught. This was part of a national security detail to elect former Venezuelan socialist dictator Hugo Chavez, which helps us to understand why Venezuela, which has been reduced to ruins by these communist dictators like Chavez and Maduro. They're terribly unpopular among the people, but somehow they managed to be reelected. Well, the Dominion software machines is how these dictators are able to get reelected. Also, there's another company aligned with that. There's a company called Smartmatic, and this is the company that developed the software adopted by Dominion software. And so here we have software that was developed to keep communist dictators in office, and apparently it was used massively, particularly in the swing states in the 2020 elections. Another aspect of this steal is that these voting machines were able to connect to the internet by way of laptops that were internet accessible. And the suit says that if one laptop was connected to the internet, the entire precinct was compromised. So this lawsuit deals with the rigged machines. Also, among the 30 allegations, Sidney talks about absentee ballots, and she said in the state of Georgia, between 31,000 and 38,000 absentee ballots were returned by Republican voters but were not counted. And that there were an additional 20,000 plus absentee ballots that were recorded by people who had moved out of state, no longer Georgia citizens. So 30 allegations, all of them very substantive, that Sidney Powell, who's an excellent prosecutor, has amassed. And this is just in one state, And the Trump legal team is amassing lawsuits for all of the different states: Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona. It's interesting that former governor of Illinois, Rod Blagojevich, who was a Democrat governor who was in prison for 8 years until he was pardoned by Trump, he said that Democrat fraud in elections is notorious in Democrat-controlled cities such as Chicago, where he is from. He says he has never seen such pervasive, massive voter fraud in an election in his career. And this is a Democrat who is saying that, and he's very concerned about it. So we've got these lawsuits going on. And then there's another interesting track to this, Richard, that I would like for us to talk about, and that is the pardon of General Michael Flynn, 3-star general who was persecuted for 4 years, the former director of the Defense Intelligence Agency. And just the day before Thanksgiving, Donald Trump pardoned Michael Flynn. So let's talk about that, and what do you think is going on with this recent pardon? What is Michael Flynn up to?
Well, this is huge. Michael Flynn's been under a gag order for the last 4 years, so he couldn't talk about anything. You know, he was the intelligence director for the military, so there's not much higher intelligence agency than the military. Well, now this lifts the gag order off of him, so he can talk. So he can tell all. He can tell where the bodies are buried. So now I understand he's working directly with the DOD and telling them it all. He's helping to bury the deep state. So this is one thing they were afraid of. They knew they didn't have anything against him. They wanted to keep him quiet. They didn't think Trump would pardon him, at least before the election. But now that the election is compromised, then Trump had no other choice to pardon him, and the truth is going to come out. This is really huge.
Isn't the timing of this just brilliant on Trump's part? He holds back on the pardon until after the election. Mm-hmm. He knew that the Democrats were planning to steal the election.
Sure, he's been talking about it for a year. Yeah,
so here's Michael Flynn, the former director of intelligence under the Obama administration. He knows where all the bad guys are and all the bad things they've done. And now with the gag order lifted, he can work with the new leadership of the DOD, which I want to talk about in just a minute, working with them basically to gather evidence in preparation for mass arrests for these treasonous deep state actors.
Right. But you know what? Here's what I was thinking about this earlier today. Trump was campaigning, like a normal campaigning, out holding rallies, making speeches every day. Like most politicians do in a general election. While Biden was hiding in his basement, not doing anything. If he did come out, he had 12 people, and those were mostly his staffers. So here's what was happening. Trump was out campaigning, and the Biden administration was plotting how to steal this.
Right. That's why they were so calm about not campaigning and having the worst candidate, I think, probably in American history. But yet they seem very confident, didn't they?
Right, because for the last year, they've been plotting and planning how to steal this election. So they didn't need Joe to get out of his basement because they were going to steal it.
And again, I think that this was something that Trump knew about. He's been warning the American people about it.
He's known about it. He's known about it. He's been watching it.
Yeah, 80 million ballots, mail-in ballots have been sent out ripe for fraud, just in that regard.
Right, and if you look at these videos of the Democrats back before 2016, they were all talking about this voting program. That none of them wanted to use it. They knew it was just ripe for fraud. You don't hear any of them saying it now, but it's the same program that stole this election.
Right. Yeah. Elizabeth Warren warned about it. Some of the other Democrat congressional
presidential candidates. Sure.
They were all concerned about it, but now
very concerned.
Now that you don't hear the Democrat leader saying anything about Dominion Software, and I hear that the headquarters of Dominion Software, which is in Canada, all the workers there have disappeared.
Yeah, the offices are empty. Every office they've had, they've gone to the offices and
they're gone.
And they're gone. They're just empty. They deleted half of them. Have deleted their profiles on LinkedIn.
Right.
So we can't find them. We don't know where they are.
Now I have an article here by Mike Adams of Natural News. It's really a blockbuster. We won't have time to talk too much about it, but the article is entitled, "Trump Pardoned Flynn to Put Him Back in Play with the DOD with Chris Miller and Ezra Cohen Watnick in preparation for mass arrests of treasonous deep state actors." And for those of you who've been on Mars for the last week, you might not know who these men are. Chris Miller is now the Department of Defense director. Mark Esper was fired after the election because he is a deep state actor, and Trump wanted to put the right people in, so he fired Mark Esper and brought Chris Miller in, who's now the Secretary of Defense. This is a very powerful position. And then he brought in Ezra Cohen Watnick, who is a contemporary and a longtime friend of Michael Flynn, by the way. And he put Mr. Watnick in charge of the Special Operations Forces. These are our elite people, Navy SEALs, etc., intelligence people. And he placed the Special Operations Forces directly under the command of Donald Trump. So he took the Special Operations people outside of the bureaucracy of the Department of Defense. Ezra Cohen Watnick is now directly accountable and answerable to Donald Trump. So Donald Trump basically controls the Special Operations Forces.
Right, and that's huge too.
Right.
It doesn't have to go through anybody. It's Donald Trump's orders, and they obey.
Right. So special operations, which of course are used to taking out deep state actors and foreign combatants. Rumor is that they're now arresting deep state actors, putting them on airplanes, taking them outside of on international waters so that they can interrogate them. And of course, they have all the information on them from the NSA, which, by the way, now is run by Trump loyalists. And so what could be happening is that lower level deep state actors are being basically taken to deep sites, perhaps Gitmo for interrogation. And what we could be seeing in weeks to come is the arrest of perhaps high level deep state traitors who've been part of the perhaps the Obama administration and still working with the shadow government under Obama's control. So there are things going on behind the scenes. At the same time, the Trump legal team is working, quote, publicly to present their cases before federal courts, and eventually this is going to the Supreme Court. So I think the how should we say, the saving of the republic is going on at various levels, both from the all-star legal team as well as Michael Flynn, Chris Miller, and Ezra Cohen Watnick working with the Department of Defense and Special Ops to basically save the republic. So all that to say this, the reason why Donald Trump is kind of laying low is not because he's packing his bags, planning to move into Mar-a-Lago and enjoy a restful retirement. That is anything but Donald Trump style. He's a fighter, and he's relentless. He will never concede, because to do so would mean the end of our republic. So there are good things going on, and we just need to be patient as American citizens and patriots and allow law and justice to take its course. And sometimes the wheels of justice turn slowly, but I'm hoping that they are going to turn and grind, how should we say, quite a bit in turning our republic back to the truth and lawlessness, and possibly bringing down the deep state that has plagued our country increasingly over the last 4 years.
Yeah, I want to also say you're correct on that. Donald Trump he's been real quiet lately, and there's been a good reason for him to be. Him and his team and the other teams that are working on this, they're too busy right now to go out and haggle with the media. No matter what the media says, they're gonna call him names, asking when he's going to concede. Why, try to make the worst out of it. But no, he's busy working. He's not going anywhere. My prediction is if this doesn't, our time is our enemy right now. We have to have this done within the next 2 weeks. But he's not going anywhere. Even if Biden takes off as President Trump, I believe he'll either announce immediately that he's going to run for 2024. For president, he'll be the same age as Joe Biden is right now.
In a lot better shape.
Yeah, a lot better shape. And I think he also might open a new news network to compete with Fox News. Of course, Fox News is going in the toilet now anyway. But a Trump network would be the most powerful network in the world.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and as you see, AT&T has 150 billion in the hole. How does a company get 150 billion dollars in the hole? I mean, my cell phone bill should be supporting AT&T, but they've got CNN up for sale now. I think it would be hilarious if Donald Trump bought CNN, fired them all, and then changed the name to the Trump Network.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah,
they'd melt down. They would just completely melt down.
And of course, with Fox News' betrayal of the president, their viewership has just gone down the toilet too.
Yeah, they're gone. They're gone.
Massive transfer of loyalty toward Newsmax and One American News.
Oh yeah, and if you haven't watched Newsmax yet, go turn it over there. That's everybody that Fox has fired is over on Newsmax now. So it's a great station. They've had 3 million downloads since November 3rd. So some of their shows are actually outranking the Fox primetime.
Oh yeah.
So they're doing fantastic.
I've canceled Fox News. I just watch Newsmax, One American News, and it's so encouraging because everyone on there is pro-Trump, pro-American. You don't have these crazy liberals that they used to put on, that they have on Fox News, this fair and balanced junk. I don't want fair and balanced. I want the truth.
Right. So, and also Newsmax is free. Where Fox News, you have to pay for a subscription on cable.
Oh yeah, I canceled my Fox News subscription shortly after the election, and I'm not looking back.
Yeah, I haven't watched it since election. There's Hannity's flipped, Laura's flipped. But you know why they flip? They flip for the paycheck.
For the paycheck, right?
Sure.
Yeah, it's for the paycheck, and I don't listen to Tucker Carlson either. I just don't. They've all flipped for Biden, and I'm just not going to go along with it.
Yeah. And there's 80 million Americans are walking away from the.
And we're also seeing a shift. While we're talking about shifts, we're seeing a shift away from the tech media censors. People are closing their Facebook accounts, moving to Parler. You've moved your platform now, is it on Parler and MeWe?
Parler and MeWe, yeah.
And I heard there's a YouTube replacement called Rumble.
Yeah, Rumble's good.
Yeah.
And then there's also another one called NewTube, N-E-W Tube.
Oh, okay, N-E-W Tube. Okay.
Yeah. And where Dan Bongino has moved all of his stuff over to Rumble and most of it to MeWe. He does still have, just like I do, I still have my Facebook page, mostly to inform people that where I'm moving to follow me over to the new formats.
That's good.
So I'll slowly move away from that. Dan was saying that he's being demonetized on Facebook and on YouTube, so there's no reason for him to be on there anymore.
And by the way, he's a major investor in Parler. He was one of the originators of Parler.
Yes, he is, and he's said the other day, he goes, I don't care if I make a penny off this or not. He says we've just got to get away from these Bay Area tech companies that are stifling our speech.
Right. Vimeo, by the way, is also a big censor. People are moving away from Vimeo and moving to a Uscreen, which is again a free speech equivalent to Vimeo for live streaming. So I think what we're going to see as a result of this election, attempted election steal, is that conservatives are just fed up and they're going to just move away from these big tech censor. We're tired of waiting for Congress to do something. Most congressional people are bought off by the tech media. We're going to do our own censorship. We're just going to move away from these big tech platforms and move to free speech platforms.
Right. And New York Times is done. Washington Post is done. MSNBC, CNN's done. The only reason they survived for the past 4 years is for the hate Trump media crowd. You know, they fed the crowd exactly what they wanted, but it's over. You know, What are they going to talk? What are they going to talk about? Either way, what are they going to talk about?
Right, they're done either way.
They're done.
Their credibility is gone.
They committed suicide.
Yeah. They really jumped the shark when they tried to steal this election. This is hoax number 5 or hoax number 6.
Right.
And they just really jumped the shark on this. And there are 80 million Americans that are just done with it. We've just had it.
Yeah. And any of the sponsors, you know, we learned the games from the Democrats. Any of the sponsors that sponsor any of these networks, we'll boycott them.
Right.
We're the ones with the money.
Right. So we're going to use our economic power to establish our own platforms,
sure,
to push our own products and companies that are pro-American, like Mike Lindell with MyPillow. I mean, he's just doing so well. And so we want to support pro-American companies and pro-American media like the Epoch Times, great newspaper, many wonderful websites as well.
Also, don't forget Right Side Broadcasting on YouTube.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I actually saw Mike from MyPillow was sponsored one of their programs during the election. So
That's great.
It was nice of him to do that.
Yes. So we've got a lot of things to be happy about and thankful for, and we just wanted to bring some things to our listening audience to encourage you that the fight is not over, the fight has just begun, and we are winning at every level.
Right, don't give up hope. We're still in the game.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're out of time for today. Richard, thanks for joining us, and remind our listeners about your Facebook page once more.
Yeah, it's the Patriot Network, excuse me. If you search it, it's the Patriot Network 1776. We're also on MeWe under the Patriot Network and Parler under the Patriot Network.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for joining us. And friends, thank you for joining us for today's podcast. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, this is David Schnitker. Thanks for listening.